Throw your orange on for another feeling good, funky, fresh, fired up Friday as we talk about a couple of depth charts that have come out as well as some sleepers to pay attention to. And there is a new Coach Gundy roaming the sidelines in Stillwater, America with some remaining eligibility.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things cowboy and cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at All Day O State. Today, we're partially brought to you by Game Time Tickets. Download the Game Time app and be a part of the bee's knees for all of your ticket purchasing needs. Create an account and use the code LOCKEDONCollege, all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. We're going to get started in the conversation of the new Coach Gundy roaming the sidelines, and that is, in fact, a Gunnar Gundy. Now, there's probably a multitude of reasons why Gunnar Gundy decided to transfer, some of which obviously are going to be football related. He did go through a fairly tumultuous period at Oklahoma State, juggling between being a starter and having some moments and having some minutes. And of course, the fan base was all over the place on whether Gunnar Gundy should have been the guy as opposed to maybe a Garrett Rangel, or even you have to factor in the conversation of Alan Bowman. And why I feel like this is pertinent is because I firmly believe at one point in time this previous season, Alan Bowman was going to do more of a coaching role, pick up clipboard and help some of the younger guys out. Then we had multiple injuries and surgeries kind of pop up on us, and he was back out on the field for quite some time. Now we have Gunnar Gundy, who decided to go to Emporia State to prove that he could still do it, and absolutely did that, throwing for 2,751 yards, 23 touchdowns to 11 picks, averaging 276 yards per game, including multiple Emporia State records, where one game he threw for 564 yards. So he did go to Emporia State and prove that he still has the capability to do something very special. Because if you're able to put up those kind of numbers at that level, then there is a viability for you still being able to do it at this level. And plus, he does have almost 600 yards as a Cowboy throwing the ball, and his athleticism has been able to shine through, and even getting a touchdown against Texas A&M in the bowl game. But now he brings all of that to Oklahoma State to be a coach, which I think is not only good for Oklahoma State, but it's good for Mike Gundy as well. This is a transcending type of opportunity here to have your son get into the coaching game, potentially someday end up back at Oklahoma State. And of course, you have guys like J.W. Walsh has been very open, upfront, and honest about the fact that he wants to be the head coach of Oklahoma State someday. That is his number one dream. Could that potentially be the same for Gunnar Gundy? Time will tell. But what we do know is he's going to be able to blend some of the past experiences at Oklahoma State, some of the past offenses, on top of his relationship that he has with most of the roster that is already there. Plus, he's going to be able to kind of help with the transitionary period for somebody like a Haas Haney to show him what things used to be, what the offense was, what the looks were, what the checks were, and the implementation now of what the Doug Meacham offense is going to be able to incorporate. Gunnar Gundy should be very instrumental in helping a lot of that kind of come to fruition. The real question is, does his remaining eligibility play a factor here? Well, I don't necessarily think so, but we're gonna paint a picture here that if for whatever reason we had some more quarterback injuries, or if we had somebody transfer after spring, because as much as I love this quarterback room, I don't think the best quarterback was playing last year. But nonetheless, as it pertains to this season, the likelihood of keeping all four of them after spring, to me, just seems extremely unlikely, because all four of them have proven that they're capable starters at this level. Now, there's going to be some dissemination of information about is Garrett Rangel going to be able to do this? But again, I point back to the BYU game. His arm angles and the trajectory of some of his passes, of course, need a bit of refinement. But his ability to lead the team was very, very visible on the field. And I think the same can be said to some degree about Gunnar Gundy, other than when he was thrown into some terrible situations, like down almost 50-0 against Kansas State, right? The shaking hands thing is something that he'll always be remembered for. But we remember some of the things that he was able to provide whenever it came to that quarterback battle. That quarterback battle did not shake out the way it should have. I don't think anybody can disagree or argue with that at this point in time after seeing what Alabama did this previous season. We bet on the wrong dudes, but it is what it is. Now we have opportunities, and Gunnar Gundy, I think, is going to be absolutely massive, especially for some of the returning guys like Garrett Rangel, because now they're not going to have a competition per se. Now they're going to have the ability to kind of converge and make some ideas happen and make it translate onto the football field. You know, I do know that Garrett is done with his rehab stuff, that building up his muscle and everything is going pretty well. So I'm excited to see what everybody's able to provide, but I think this is a good move for Oklahoma State. It's a good move for Mike Gundy, and I think it's a smart transition for Gunnar Gundy. Plus the fact that he does still have remaining eligibility, it adds a little mystique that if somebody were to go down or multiple people were to go down or somebody transfers or multiple people transfer, wouldn't it make sense to have Gunnar Gundy as an emergency option if need be? Now, again, I don't know if there's a distinction between like scholarship athlete, non-scholarship athlete, GA, how that would kind of shake out. We have had some guys like a Brian Nardo that have been GAs while they were still in college, doing the coaching thing instead of the playing thing. So it's not completely foreign. And he has done a little bit of everything at Oklahoma State. So I think this is awesome for Gunnar. And I think this is good for Mike Gundy. It's good for Oklahoma State. I think it's good for the entirety of the quarterback room and the developmental aspects that he should be able to help give some of the younger guys and absorb the information coming down the pipeline from guys like Doug Meacham and Corey Patterson and Kevin Johns and Theron H. This is going to be a phenomenal learning moment for Gunnar Gundy, so it's going to be kind of fun to see if he remains on the GA staff to some degree in the next few years. I would imagine that he would, but it's also very interesting that he does still have eligibility. So I don't know how his classification is currently set up, but I would imagine that it wouldn't be too entirely difficult with him still having remaining eligibility, that if we needed to, in a pinch, find a way to get him on the football field if need be. Now, wouldn't that be a circling the wagons moment for everybody? But I think this is phenomenal news. And, yeah, it's great for Gundy. It's great for the Gundy family. And regardless of all of the reasons that he transferred, the fact that he's back, I think, does set the precedence that we've got some younger coaches that are vying for the opportunity to someday take over at Oklahoma State. And, of course, the dream would still be to have like the Zach Robinsons and Todd Monken's and Jim Knowles back in Stillwater at some point in time. But in the far-off future, it could be a J.W. Walsh. It could be a Gunnar Gundy that takes the rightful place as a head coach. And hopefully someday rocking the orange and black as well. So this is a great moment. I love the versatility that he provides from a clipboard standpoint, headset standpoint, film study standpoint, and possibly playing in a pinch standpoint. Do not miss your opportunity to get the best tickets in the game. And healthy reminder, this isn't just for football. Game Time Tickets gives you the ability to get into athletics, music, comedy, theater, local events near you. But right now, it's Super Bowl 59 time. There's nothing like the NFL playoffs. There's nothing like the energy that it brings, the connection with other fans. It's all exciting. It's all a thrill, especially if you have a favorite team that has been able to clinch a playoff spot. If you are able to watch it live, it's going to be a memory that you will never, ever forget. This year, Game Time makes it easier to create those unforgettable moments and memories with the Game Time Picks feature that filters out all the fluffy stuff to give you just the best deals on all of the seats without having to sift through thousands of minutes of thousands of tickets. When you use a Game Time Picks to grab tickets for an upcoming NFL game, it couldn't be easier. You find the super deal that's going to give you an incredible value for the most amazing seats. And it's even going to give you a panoramic preview of the spot before you get in the stadium. So there's no hanky-panky of getting in the wrong spot. No surprise fees at checkout. Knowing that your tickets are backed by the Game Time guarantee gives you the best peace of mind physically possible. Make sure that you take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time tickets. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDON, college all one word, for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but create that account, redeem that code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. It's last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed all day, every day. Get with Game Time for all of your ticketing needs. All right, so now we get to jump into some of the depth chart conversations. And some individuals like McLean Baxley and Robert Allen have put out their projected depth chart. So I wanted to talk about some of those real quick and then add some sleepers that we need to pay attention to that are already making some noise, even though we're really not, fully diving into a football season. They are learning the playbook. They are doing individual work. They are doing drills, and they're doing some rotations. So let's go over what McLean had, wide receiver. He had DeJuan Lofton, Shamar Rigby, and Talon Shetron. I would be surprised if Talon is healthy and not starting, just like I would be surprised if Shamar Rigby doesn't obviously get an ample amount of opportunities. Secondarily, he's got Gavin Freeman, Jalen Lloyd, and Io Shotomide-King. I think Io Shotomide-King is not only going to start, but he'll have the capabilities of being stud. Tyke Andrews, Royal Capel, Mason Gilkey, Trey Griffiths, Cameron Hurd, Sam Jackson, the fifth, Matrell Lopez, Jaden Perez, Cameron Powell will all be factors as well. I do firmly believe that Trey Griffiths could potentially have a very big moment this season. Running back, he's got Rodney Fields, number 1, Trent Howland, number 2, followed by Jaden Allen Hendricks, Caleb Hicks, Sesi Availahi. Then you have some of the new dudes coming in like DJ Duggar that will also factor into this equation as well. Quarterback, he's got Haas Haney, number 1, Zane Flores, number 2, Garrett Rangel, 3, Maluake Smith, number 4. Yeah, that's a little surprising to some degree. Linebacker, number 1, Brian McCoy, followed by Brandon Rawls and Trip White. Tamarick Johnson, Hwasa Utu, followed by, as the other linebacker spot in the middle, followed by Jonathan Agumadou, Charlie Christopher, Justin Crutchmer, Ike Essenwoon, Yamil Talib, Chris Robinson, Gunnar Wilson, and Carl Vion Young. Defensive line, he's got, Malik Charles starting with Chendavian Bradley, the number 1 JUCO product in the country, right behind him. Defensive tackle, Michael Diata coming over from Virginia, followed by Demarick Morris, who's another transfer that has been brought in recently. Man in the middle, Justin Kirkland, with Iman Oates behind him. Another defensive end spot, Kyron Duhon, UTEP transfer that was freshman all-conference of the year, followed by Rashad Bradley. Others to pay attention to on his list, Deshaun Brown, Landon Dean, Sid Vinny, Havili Kavusi, Dalil Johnson, Aiden Kelly, Armstrong Nodum, Michael Riles, Jalen Tuckler, Luke Webb, Austin Young, and Patrick Ojo. Left tackle, he's got Tyler Brumfeld starting, followed by Noah McKinney. Left guard, Lavaca to these names. Oh, my Lanta. Lavaca, that guy. Followed by Nuku Mapi. Center, Kason Carpenter, transfer from Tulsa, followed by Stillwater High School's own Jacoby Sanders. Right guard, Austin Kwecky, followed by Davis Dotson. Right tackle, Louis Canepa, followed by Calvin Harley. Others in the backup role, Jalen Beckley, Miguel Chavez, Jack and Dean. Simona, not going to do it. His dad needs to reach out to me so I don't murder it. Caleb Hackelman, Riker Half, Jared Henry, Chauncey Johnson, Isaiah Kima, Jamison Maya. Actually, I thought he transferred. Gage Stanilan. And then whenever it comes to the cornerback positions, he has J.K. Johnson and Jalen Davies starting, which I found somewhat interesting because it's a little bit of a differentiation from Robert Allen. Now let's look at Robert Allen's before we add some caveats in here. If you look at the quarterback position, he's got Zane Flores starting over Haas Haney with Garrett Rangel as QB3 and Maluake Smith as QB4. He also has Rodney Fields starting at running back, followed by Trent Howland, Sesi Vailahe, Jaden Allen Hendricks, and Caleb Hicks. Wide receiver Z. I agree with him here. Io Shotomide-King, followed by Trey Griffiths, Cam Hurd, and Cam Powell. Ex-receiver Shamar Rigby over at Talon Shetron and Jalen Lloyd. Slot receiver, he's got Gavin Freeman, DeJuan Lofton, Sam Jackson V, Tyke Andrews, and Kyler Pearson. I thought Kyler Pearson was graduating, but I could be wrong as well on that one. Tight end, Josh Ford, followed by Quentin Stewart, Jordan Owens, and then the extra usage, all-purpose tight end, he's got Oscar Hammond and Will Money. Both transfers coming in by way of North Texas and Utah State. Jordan Owens obviously came in from Central Arkansas. Right tackle, he's got Noah McKinney starting at a baby RA, followed by Louis Canepa, Caleb Hackelman, Matthew Wade. Right guard, Austin Kolecki, I agree there. Gage Staniland, Chauncey Johnson. Center, Kason Carpenter over Jarrett Henry and Jacoby Sanders. I think Jacoby Sanders is going to have the opportunity here to win out this job, although Kason Carpenter is a veteran with multiple years of eligibility, so that'll be interesting to pay attention to. Left guard, Davis Dotson, followed by Lavaca, the name I cannot pronounce. I appreciate his dad reaching out, but I'm not going to murder it, all right? Jamison Amaja, I guess he didn't transfer because he's on both of these depth charts. Left tackle, here's the surprise, and one of the names that I was going to bring up in my top 5 sleepers, Jack and Dean. I also believe that Jack and Dean will be a starter over Nuku Mafi and Tyler Brumfeld. Defensive ends, he's got Deshaun Brown and Jaleel Johnson, followed by Kyron Duhan, Landon Dean, Armstrong Nodum, Austin Young, and Patrick Ojo. DT, Justin Kirkland. Yep. With Iman Oates and Aiden Kelly behind him. The other DT spot, Sitvini Havili Kavusi, followed by Demerick Morris and Luke Webb. The Jack, outside backer, DN dude. Chendavian Bradley, Malik Charles, Rashad Bradley, Pwasa Utu. I agree there. I think Chendavian Bradley is going to be a beast, but Malik Charles is going to rotate and be able to provide quite a bit as well. He's got Brendan Rawls starting at a linebacker, followed by Ike Essenwoon, Jonathan Akumadu, Yamil Talib, and Grant Maribel. The other linebacker spot, Brian McCoy, Trip White, Tamarick Johnson, Chris Robinson, Gunnar Wilson, Chance Clements, who is no longer here, Justin Crutchmer. Then we've got cornerbacks. He has Cam Smith retaining his starting role, followed by R.J. Lester, Jacoby Oliphant, J.K. Johnson, and Evan Smith. The other cornerback spot, he's got the other Smith, K.L. Smith, followed by UCLA transfer Jalen Davies. Year 5 guy, Kenneth Harris, Jr., LaDainian Fields, Carrington Pierce, Kobe Foreman. Nickelbacks, Dylan Smith, Raymond Gay, Chase Pinkston. Strong safeties, David Kabongo, Cam Epps, Ty Williams, Mordecai McDaniel, Talon Kendrick from Stillwater High School, and Cade Welcher. Free safety, Parker Robinson, Landon Cleveland, Jeremy Cook, Cooper Lay, and Reed DeQuazy. Kickers, Logan Ward, Gabe Penikowski, David Arriga, and Kasem Trum. So I think a decent amount of that is pretty good. I think I would lean more towards RA and some of these distinctions than McLean's. But some of the names that are lower down on the list that need to be talked about, we mentioned Landon Dean. RA has him as a starter, so obviously he's not super down on the list. One individual that we need to pay attention to that is already getting some run with some of the top guys on the roster is going to be guys like Gunnar Wilson. This dude is primed to be a mainstay in this lineup moving forward. Another individual that also should be neck and neck with some competing roles for the 2 spot is going to be Armstrong Nodum, the dude who can move mountains and lift houses right next to Justin Kirkland. They're getting technical, fundamental training that they did not get last year. Now, this has been synonymous with every player that I've talked to. It is light years different than last season. It's not even in the same hemisphere. The little minute details that they're getting now in the training and the drills and how to shift your hips one way, this way, 2 inches, so on and so forth, it is new to them. And it's an invigorating experience because if you're trying to set yourself up for further success, you're like a sponge, right? You want all of that information that you can get. You want to be able to make it applicable to the football field. Being able to lift a bunch, doesn't help if you technically cannot get off blocks or absorb double teams to help the guys behind you. These are things that they're learning, different angles and different ways to approach the offensive linemen and the offensive linemen getting to the second level for the linebackers and the safeties. The technique is being taught to a level that they haven't gotten in quite some time, at least all of last season. You could pretty much call last season a wash. So you got Jack and Dean. Yeah? You got Gunnar Wilson. You've got Armstrong Nodum. Another dude that I think will have the opportunity to fly up this board here is going to be Jacoby Oliphant. You can't teach almost 6'4", 200 pounds as a corner. You can't teach the athleticism and multiple sides of the ball that he played with coming out of high school. Plus, he did get some play last year in special teams, and he was able to get in on a few tackles and make a little bit of a noise for himself. I expect him to do the same here now. Another name that I found surprisingly down towards the bottom is Mordecai McDaniel. Mordecai McDaniel is a Grantham dude that was one of the top recruits in the country coming out of high school. He did have a couple of phenomenal seasons that he put together in the SEC, but he also has a couple lackluster seasons. This is going to be a big opportunity for him. And then corner, I do actually side a little bit more with McLean Baxley on that one. I do think that J.K. Johnson is absolutely going to be able to put himself in a position to be a starter day one, as is Jalen Davies. Cam Smith is not going to be easy to get out of the way here, but I feel like there's a decent amount of these guys that are going to be able to make a name for themselves before we know it. It's going to be crucial. And lastly, another dude who doesn't have a scholarship was told that he probably should transfer and said no. I firmly believe I can beat out whomever to get to that 105 scholarship spot is Yamil Talib. Yamil Talib is athletically a specimen. Yeah, we know that. His training has been next level most of his entire life. His drive is what's going to allow him to be successful. He's smart. He understands the game plan. The implementation of some of the defensive schemes have already been absorbed quite easily by both him and Jonathan Agumadu. So those are some of the names that aren't really high up other than Jack and Dean on these depth charts that I think we need to pay attention to because they could potentially end up being starters. Worst case scenario, they're going to be number twos that rotate a significant amount. This season, here's a lot of excitement for me. It can't get a lot worse than 3-9. I think we can all agree with that. But having a head coach on defense and having somebody like Doug Meacham with Kevin Johns and Corey Patterson, plus Cooper Bassett, Andrew Mitchell, I think this is a really solid nucleus on both sides of the ball. As I said all year last year, from what I've gathered, the guys that should have been playing the most were the underclassmen. Whether it's attitude, effort, whatever the case may be, they were hungry. They wanted it. They had something to prove. Most of them didn't get a lot of opportunity. This is their time to shine, and I think they're going to surprise some people along the way. I'll keep this one short, sweet, and to the point. As you guys know, one of the funnest parts of my job, which is about to kick off in February, March, April, is getting to travel the country and cover 7-on-7 and getting to talk some of the high school coaches and do write-ups and film analysis on some of the players and do some of the live evaluations and meet some of the best the NFL has to offer at some of these events. It's very fast-paced. It's very fun, but it is also pretty easy to discern who is going to be the real dudes that have opportunities, who are the guys that are going to fight and claw at a lower level, and who are the guys that you just need a considerable amount of work. Now, on this program, we've had NFL Pro Bowlers. We've had NFL Super Bowl winners. We've had guys that have been competing for Doak Walker Awards, Heisman Awards. They're some of the top 10 all-time in Oklahoma State history in different categories. We've also had some current Cowboys, future Cowboys, and committed Cowboys. Now, I don't typically do the committed thing, right? We typically wait until they're actually on campus or they've already signed the old school LOI or now their NIL funds, whatever it is. But one of the reasons that I have been able to continue to rock with Prospect Sports is because they have a model that they put forth that isn't just about football, not just about 7-on-7. They try to help parents and students navigate the NIL, the transfer market, how to get your name out there, what you need to talk about when you're talking to coaches, and how to navigate the crazy waters of the recruiting landscape that is now upon us. I love them for that they go outside of football, they go outside of technique, and they also teach about how the transfer portal works out, how the money typically works out, what universities are saying, what universities have a propensity to kind of blow some smoke up recruits' wazoos to get them on campus, so on and so forth. And I had recently had my first ever uncommitted Cowboy. And, I'm not going to throw anybody on the bus, but what I will say is, out of all of the players, current, past, present, NFL, Super Bowl, Pro Bowl, none of them, 0.0 of them, were asking for money, because this show is not about that. Now, I do have some investors that do help with some NIL stuff, but as far as giving money for appearances and stuff, that's absolutely never going to happen, because this is all about the experience, right? This is about the fan engagement with the players to get to know them to a little bit of a better degree. Not to mention, I try to make this fun, loose, conversational. It's not bullet point driven. We don't pre-discuss things. That's the point. It's to be off the cuff, to be fun, to make it kind of a wild, regular conversation. And that is what this is. If you're excited and you're wanting to build your brand, that's what we're here for. That is what we do. But to have 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds asking for money after making an appearance, it blew my ever-loving mind. So there is an episode that we did remove, and my bosses weren't super thrilled with it because I put all my ducks in a row. I did everything I was supposed to beforehand. But just the fact that there's an individual after the fact saying this was great, I had a blast, yada, yada, yada. And then the next day saying, actually, I have an agent now, and my agent says that you should pay me for making an appearance on your show because it's going to do more for you than me. And that's the wrong approach. And this is yet again why I wanted to accentuate the point that why I do primarily work with Prospect Sports is because they do try to help kids filter out this fluffy stuff. They will pull kids aside and say, listen, when you're talking to coaches or you're going through the recruiting, one thing you need to pay attention to is when evaluations are being done, we're taking notes on not just your physical prowess, not just your ability on the field, but how you conduct yourself off the field, how you talk to parents, how you engage with the crowd, what kind of animosity do you present when you're out on the field, things of that nature. And in this NIL-driven era, there's going to be times to capitalize on your monetary value, but there's also times where you can utilize services like 7-on-7, like podcasts, to get your name out there, to raise your name, image, and likeness. So if you have representation and agents at 16 years old telling you that you need to get paid for you trying to promote you, I'm telling you now, covering this for a living, traveling the country, talking to these coaches and trainers on a daily basis, that is a bad recipe for success. Are you a 5-star? Yeah. Are you going to get recruited by everybody in the country no matter what? Yes. But it sets the wrong precedence. You will push teams away if the first thing you're worried about is getting money at 16 years old before you've ever even got the opportunity to be at a program, to showcase your ability. You've still got a couple years of high school left. The last thing you need to be doing is trying to, I can't even think of the right word, trying to position yourself for money at 16. You have to get your name out there more. You have to show the public that you're not only good on the field, you're not only good off the field, but you're great in interviews, because that raises your NIL dollar bills. So I just want to let you guys know there was an episode removed because I don't play that game, and I will never play that game. I'm here to provide something to the fan base. I'm here to provide something to the players, the athletes, the NFL dudes, and that is just to get more exposure and have more fun, to give you more connectivity. I am not going to be paying people to do this. It's just not what we do. But anywho, that's all we're going to have on this one right here. As always, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Lockdown Oklahoma State. Hit the like button. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast people out there, you know what you are. You know what you do. Hit the stars. Leave a review. All righty, y'all. Later, taters.